Our This Week in XR podcast is sponsored by our friends at Zapper, the world's leading augmented reality platform and creative studio, with over 11 years of experience working with the world's biggest brands through Zapper Creative Studio. Zapper also has an award-winning web AR platform, ZapWorks, that lets you create your own mobile AR magic. Finally, check out their Zap Box, the most affordable mixed reality headset on the planet. Start creating AR over at zap.works or talk to them about your next AR project at zapper.com. Good morning, everybody. It's Charlie Fink and Ted Schilowitz with a special edition of This Week in XR. We are just on the Sunday of CES week. You could see Ted, for those of you on video, Ted is still in his hotel room, as he said a moment ago, a little bit groggy. I got home last night, as you could hear from my voice. I left it all on the field as well.
Yeah, we both have CES voice, as we say. And I am still here, because last night was last night. You celebrate the week, and somehow it just the night gets away from you.
So how did you rate this year's show?
I super enjoyed this year's show. I thought there were the right amount of people. It wasn't overwhelming. We were able to get around pretty okay, but it was kind of back to normal. It felt normal. Let's hope we didn't both walk away with God knows what.
Well, I tested myself when I was checking out yesterday, and they gave everybody test kits. The test kit people were everywhere, which kudos to CTA. They seemed much better organized this year than years in the past. Now, maybe they had so much time during the pandemic to think about it and attend to details, but there were less clueless volunteers. The cab line was under control. I never waited more than 15 minutes for a cab.
Yeah. Ubers were fine. Everything was working. And the show was pretty well organized, and I thought well attended, and there were a lot of smart offerings, and it was good. I was sending you text the other day, and I was saying, I think the biggest impactful thing to me was, for whatever any human on the planet thinks about Elon Musk and all of his foibles and challenges, he has changed an entire industry, and it is demonstrated in one of the halls of CES. I guess it's now the West Hall. It used to be the North Hall, all the automotive stuff. But just literally before the pandemic, automotive was still a bunch of gas powered stuff and customized car audio, kind of goofy stuff that you wondered who was buying this stuff. And now CES, primarily, I would literally say half of CES is now an EV/battery/ smart navigation, smart everything show. And
I will say this: it took up the more physical space every year.
Yeah, and there's there are probably 60 or 70 different EVs being demonstrated now, and then all the support infrastructure for EV. It's kind of like at least at CES, if it's a leading indicator, a showing of where things are going, gas is done. Like, no one is thinking about using or investing in gas cars, and to the point where I even saw a prototype Dodge Challenger electric car. It was wow, that's pretty cool.
I didn't spend that much time. There's so much VR and AR to see.
Yeah.
I did not spend my time with a lot of other things, although I did see health tech, because it's wearable.
I did too. Yeah.
And that's very relevant to our area of specialization. So I thought it was a good year for XR. HTC introduced a very, very nice headset. It was the talk of CES. It is they won up the Quest 2 in size and comfort. The quality was hard to tell in the demos, but the pass-through was very crisp.
Yeah.
And a lot of people Scott Stein, our friend Scott Stein at CNET, absolutely lost his mind.
Yeah, I agree. I largely agree. I think the headset is an extremely refined example of where we are and in virtual reality and all-in-one virtual reality today. I think I'm not a super fan of video pass-through mixed reality, right? I understand its point and I understand its value, but I'm an optical pass-through guy. That is my bet.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Developers haven't really got at it yet.
Right.
So I'm going to cut them a break on that, but I have news about that see-through pass-through thing that I
Oh,
will
good.
share.
Okay, well, but just on the HTC for a while, I couldn't agree more. And for our listeners that are in this industry, which a lot of them, of course, came to our little soiree in Vegas.
Yeah, the podcast off the strip dinner.
Yeah, it was
that we make our friends pay their own way.
Yeah, well, it's that kind of life. But it was a good experience, and nice to see everybody that were able to join us. It was great off the strip, and really nice.
I love being in person.
Yeah,
it supercharges me, even though
you and I are very much social butterfly, social animals.
Yeah.
But on the point of the HTC, it is really light. It is really balanced.
It feels like a sleep mask. You could go to bed wearing that thing.
Yeah. The gasket that they use to cover your eyes is so much better than the quote unquote competition, and it's less money. And if they get the
it's $1,100, so
it's not $1,500. That's my point. It's
right. It's not $1,500.
No, it's not $300. So that's true, but it's got a lot of tech in it.
Yeah, I think it's going to take them a while to build up a library that's specific to the headset. They're using Viveport, which is fine. For those of you who don't know Viveport, HTC, when they thought they were going to be a consumer company like Meta has become in the VR space, they had development teams, and they were going to build this portal called Viveport that would distribute not only their content, but it would be a Steam competitor.
Yeah.
So obviously their fortunes have changed. I wish they were in a position to go after it.
Yeah, but
they're not. This is going to be more of an enterprise.
But the hardware, at least, we're seeing really valid competition.
Yes, that I think is a really important point.
Yeah.
Also mobbed Magic Leap.
Yes.
And the Magic Leap 2 is a wonderful headset.
It really is. I mean,
so light. It's so light.
Yeah.
Roni
I
is
still
not.
have my challenges with a wire and a tethered computer. It drives me out of my mind. I hate it. But I do understand trying to keep the weight off the head. And I think it is a clear direction of where things are going. There's a lot of people really excited about it. We've been a developer testing and using that device for a good long time now. It's a really good device.
So I met Peggy Johnson. I got a selfie.
You did meet her for the first time? She's great, right?
Yeah. And she promised that she would come on the show.
Oh, great. Oh,
everybody in the booth, our absent co-host, Roni Abovitz, as almost everybody on this podcast must know, you founded Magic Leap and left recently as its CEO. And everybody there went out of their way, maybe because they know we're friends, to say that this was really Roni's device. He designed it. He insisted on some of the key specs like dimming, and they miss him. It's kind of touching.
Yeah.
So Roni, if you're listening to this, you should chin up, my friend.
And his creation showed off well at CES. It was a very big booth. There's a long lines, a lot of people seeing, the direction of where they're going. So,
And kind of ironically, Microsoft was just kitty corner from their booth, and there was nary a HoloLens to be seen.
They had one HoloLens demo that they showed me, and it was good. It was enterprise level, but they're not putting any sort of muscle right now behind.
It's a shame because in 2016 it was so exciting.
There were a lot of smaller companies. The one that I thought was interesting, I wonder if you got a chance to check it out, is these guys called Ant.
That was exactly what I was going to say. It was probably the best thing I saw at the show.
Yeah.
It was the last thing I saw. I was running for the bus to the airport. But I was absolutely stunned.
They're an interesting company because they're kind of in that Kickstarter world. We've seen them off and on at AWE over the years, and kind of like interesting. They're kind of getting their act together. And I had a nice long discussion with them. I think there's a lot of applications for them. They're definitely moving into this idea of not necessarily wanting to build their own device, but to be the support structure.
Right. So there were a lot of glass companies there. These are companies that make waveguides and projectors, right? They've gotten so small now, they fit in the head of the wings. So, and you can't really see it. form factors have gotten lighter and lighter. Nobody really light enough yet, I think, but very, very close.
Yeah.
And the problem, as always, is it's not the processor or the computer or even the projector. It's always the battery.
Right. Battery and the weight. And, yeah. You saw Digilens as well, right? In their suite.
I saw Digilens and Loomis.
Yeah. They're all good, right? They're all sort of coming together.
Yeah. I mean, I go back and forth on field of view.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What's the appropriate field of view? Magic Leap's field of view, you can't even tell anymore that it doesn't go all the way across.
Yeah.
Right. Even though it's 60 something degrees.
Well, they did a lot of work on the vertical with Magic.
Yeah. I mean, it's really immersive. And, I think that's where we're going. I agree with you about the see-through lenses, but I think we're going to have to wait for that. A lot of the glasses are, and this is what I said I was going to share, a lot of the glasses are see-through glasses are media players. Right. And in fact, I had breakfast with our friend Chi, the founder of Nreal. They were the talk of the show in 2020, but didn't have a presence this year for US-China reasons. He said to me he wished he could do a big thing for the Air because it's really caught on. Yeah. Particularly among gamers, right? So now gaming on your phone is gaming on a 200-inch screen. Right. And it's not that expensive. Yeah. It's tethered to a smartphone. Yeah. But the application is, you whip it out when you're wanting to see a movie, and it's taking something people are already doing, right, and making it much, much better. So I'm really excited about this, and I think there was a lot of it at the show. And so when there's a trend at CES, you see there's the year, like remember the year of the 2016, that was when the Samsung Gear was very popular. Yeah. And so there were 100 knockoffs of the Samsung Gear.
Back of the clones, as we would say. Yes.
And now we're starting to see knockoff AR ones. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. TCL, one of the sponsors of the show, had a big presence. They have a couple of lightweight, essentially functional glasses, but they also have some of the apps we heard North was working on with Google, such as real-time translation and wayfinding. So really interesting, having glasses for translation. I mean, you'd have to have, they are a must-have, just like the handheld translate on your phone.
Yeah. I went to see the TCL stuff. I mean, it's obviously a big booth. They're a big consumer electronics company. They have a partnership with the NFL. They're throwing down some serious cash.
Yes.
So they're in the space. But you're right. There's there's a category now that we could define as essentially just remote viewing, right? Which is attach your smartphone, attach your computer. USB-C has become a good standard for that. And these things are pretty light. They're not smart glasses, but they're not dumb glasses, right? They're sort of
exactly. They're in this space we call, when it's in enterprise, assisted reality. Yeah.
And they're good. The thing that makes them good is mostly their birdbath optics devices, which give them extraordinary clarity. Like they're really clear,
really bright, surprisingly.
Yeah, and the biggest problem I have is the ergonomics of them. They're just not all that comfortable because they're still trying to make them like glasses. So the temples never work. They're kind of like, and it's like they got to keep working on that. The one thing
they got to go copy the Ray-Ban stories.
Yeah. The one thing the HoloLens, oddly enough, got right is you don't need to make it glasses yet. It's not ready to be glasses yet. You don't have to look like glasses yet. Make them really comfortable and well balanced. And that goes back to the HTC. Is the HTC is just really well balanced. Like it's really smart and it's very light and you can wear it for a long time. So that's kind of my sort of pet peeve with like, I don't need it to look like glasses. I'm not wearing this on the street yet.
Right.
So anyway,
that is so true. Let's see. I have all my notes for my story. Oh, there was a very sad news story this week, so I'm glad we're burying it. Our friends at Mojo Vision, the guys working on the AR contact lens, have had to restructure and start licensing their technology, and not the part of the technology that has to do with the contact lenses. They're pretty much putting a bullet in the contact lenses. The chief marketing officer, Steve Sinclair, who had been with Apple for so many years, is leaving. And you just hate to see your friends lose. And it was an important research for all of us that they were undertaking. And it shows you that the economic slowdown is no joke. And when good companies can't get the kind of financing they need anymore.
And it wasn't a total surprise, right? It's a hard play.
Yeah.
It's a difficult sort of like very long-term aspiration. So it's kind of really difficult for a startup to keep holding on to that when the ones that are going to keep doing that are the Googles and the Metas of the world that have effectively unlimited funnels, so. But you're right, it is kind of a sad day when they have to put that to bed for a while, because they were really making extraordinary progress in that space, which I thought was great.
So let me go through some of the other XR companies. Oh, Vuzix, our friends at Vuzix. It's an American based in Rochester, New York. They make enterprise grade AR, see-through AR glasses, particularly for assisted reality. What differentiates them for the consumer ones we were just talking about is that they are filled with sensors and lights and cameras and all the things that, something that's, costs $400 is not going to have. And they have a new device, new to me because they introduced it in 2022, which, January 2022 was the Omicron spike. So there was only kind of a little tiny CES that year. But the Vuzix Shield is kind of it's an upgrade and kind of binocular version of the,
their blade stuff.
Yeah, the Vuzix Blade. Thank you. So Enterprise XR is alive and well. Met with the guys at RioWare. They have a similar device. It's an assisted reality device. There's a monitor hanging off your hard hat or whatever, but it's their voice control is really what I think is so extraordinary about their execution. And of course, everybody's using Qualcomm. The CES, the XR portion should just be called Qualcomm Fest. So those guys were walking around pretty happy.
And you're right. Now, look, this is a constant theme on our show, Charlie, is that, consumer is hard and enterprise is viable. And enterprise MR is extraordinarily viable. I did a walk with our whole Paramount team around Eureka Park because I thought that would be really interesting for them to see. And there were a number of companies doing various enterprise level proof points. One was using the Vuzix Shield and the Blade, both monocular and binocular, to demonstrate a captioning system for people that have hearing loss or hearing issues, so they could essentially read in their glasses that are clear, so you can still see through to people's eyes what you were saying to them in a conversation. It was a very, very clever, useful, beneficial thing. So
there were several things like that in health tech. There, in particular, the heads-up display that helps the some loss of vision patients, using thermals and other sensors to help them get around. So I thought that was, again, the tech is spreading out to all sort of different verticals. Let's see what. The other thing I was going to say about Magic Leap is I got, some demos from their partners. So that's really what they were doing, is they were doing demos of what their partners were doing with the Magic Leap. First of all, they had big news this week because they got approved by the FDA for operating theaters, which I did not know that was a big obstacle to them, but problem solved. So a lot of people wrote about it, and Magic Leap thinks it's really important. The other applications I saw, one was the automotive one. They've been doing that one for a while, but it's super upgraded. Didn't love that one. There was an architecture one, and that's a sort of obvious application for really see-through high-end augmented reality, where you anchor the plans of the house at the correct scale in the exact location, and then you walk through the house. So how could a builder, an architect, a homeowner, a developer not do that?
Right. Yeah. And that's full on enterprise at the cost of a headset and development work. You're actually, creating a really strong benefit of not having to redo stuff with bricks and mortar when you go, oh boy, I didn't realize the kitchen would look like this. Let me fix that. Yeah.
And again, it's unique software vertical, right? They've got to go out and sell that to architects, which, I don't envy them. But, that is the problem with this advanced enterprise tech. Now that it's this good, how do they explain that it's not 2016 anymore?
Right. That's a good point. Yeah.
Moving on.
Did you get a chance before we move on to the other stuff? Did you get a chance to do any of the haptics stuff? Because there were.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that was a big theme.
Yeah. And I went, our friends at Haptics, we saw Joe and those guys, and they're making good progress. And I was commenting to him when I put those gloves on. These are enterprise level things, right?
Yeah, people should understand with gloves and haptics, there are two levels. One is the ones that have mechanics. Yeah. And if you have mechanics, you have a real resistance. That's like holding a cup. Let's just keep it simple. Holding a cup, or I did Jenga in their booth, and you hold a Jenga block in your fingertips. So and there are wires that get caught while you do that.
Hydraulics
and not just for grabbing a cup, but pinching a Jenga block. And I did it in an environment with another individual, is actually our friend Tom Emmerich. But again, it's an $80,000 rig.
Yeah. He said it's going to eventually come down in price, so that's good.
I don't know how far it can come down because of the mechanics.
Well, he told me, eventually sub $10,000. So we'll see. We'll keep our fingers crossed. But what was interesting to me, the epiphany, and it'd been a long time since I'd done it. The epiphany that I had is they had a number of different demos, and they're still using like an original Vive, right? So it's this big clunky heavy headset, and you put it on, and the minute like you're doing things where there's like a little spider in your hand, and you like, out of that spider, and you're like, that spider I'm really uncomfortable. That thing is gonna bite because you feel it like running around on your fingers. What happens to me is I literally completely forget that I'm wearing this headset, because your brain can theoretically only process one thing at a time. So when the visual is supporting this thing that haptically you're seeing, you're holding a cup, to your point, you're playing Jenga, you kind of forget you're in VR, which to me was sort of a miraculous kind of thing. So I hope a lot of people that listen to the show, if you ever get a chance to experience true haptics in VR, do it. Because
I saw a naughty one at Health Tech that was synced to a headset.
Oh yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, there are some people who will never go on a date again.
Yeah. So it's just interesting, right?
I just think that if you have haptics like the spider or the block, and it's tied to VR like that, you're in that simulation. There is absolutely no friction, and you can't imagine it being used with a dish or a treadmill. And then, you've got it, right? You've got the Ready Player One vest on, which I also
getting there. Yeah.
Yeah. There were Ready Player One kind of vests for under $500. And Shiftall, that does the Panasonic VR headset, has straps that you can buy, Velcro straps. The whole set is less than $300. And then you can do full body capture in VR chat.
Yeah.
So, we're getting really, really advanced stuff. I was going to say there were all the other haptic stuff was much cheaper than, B Haptics and others. There were several other glove companies, and you could see how kind of meh it is without the resistance. Yeah. Because the finger tracking on the controllers and stuff works fine now.
Right. It's one thing to buzz it like a controller. It's another thing to actually put real pressure that is tied to the software that says, there's something heavy. There's something that this kind of like
right
period of time where you bend a fly swatter and you're like, wow, I'm actually doing this. Like, it's very sophisticated. But like you said, it's a costly thing right now. And it may never.
Demenco 3D without glasses.
Oh, you went?
Did you hit that suite?
I've seen it over the years. I actually wasn't able to go this year. So
it was. They have made so much progress since 2020.
Yeah.
I mean, they've made 3 years of progress. They're working with all different kinds of manufacturers. The price has come down 500%. So there's no, $20,000, I forget, $25,000 version anymore, right? The high end one.
The reason why is because now 8K displays are consumer level displays. So to make that work, this is, you're talking about glasses free 3D. You need a camera, obviously, that senses where you are.
Right. These are special flat screens. These are televisions. These are, again, literally with laptops and big TVs. I saw a demo on, I don't know, a 60-inch TV. So, and you're sitting in, and they're seriously floating in front of you.
Right. I know, it's an amazing thing. And the resolution now is enough that you don't see the dots, you don't see the pixels. And that's because 8K, it's a great use case of 8K technology, because you get 4K on each eye, as opposed to when you even had to use a 4K TV, 2K on each eye is actually not enough. It's too low res.
So it definitely was on my list of things that made me go, wow. There's always like 2, 3, 5 things that you say, oh, wow.
I was a wow about it 2 years ago, except for the price point. And now what you're saying is the price point has come down because consumer electronics have had their way in, and now we can get consumer electronics panels, super high res, for not a lot of money, which is amazing.
Extile, they're making the Somnum one. This is not Extile. VR Engineers has a headset called Extile.
I saw.
And Extile was the 4K per eye giant thing they made for, I think, Audi, and it was cantilevered. It was so heavy. And there wasn't a normal HDMI cable, right? There was one of those. So, but now it's normal-ish, still ultra wide point of view that they, do physically with the mirrors. So it's quite a big headset. They tried to do a standalone demo and hang not just a battery, but a whole mini PC off you. And after about 30 seconds, that was not tenable. They're making a standalone that's being funded by Somnum Space, which is, yes, it's a 3D virtual world, but it's also kind of a crypto thing. So they were able to fund this headset. I don't know why. I honestly don't understand this. I did one thing that VR Engineers makes is, I use the original Extile, which now, weighs, doesn't need to be cantilevered. And it is better than human eye resolution. Right. And I'm not sure that is good for most applications, particularly consumers. I mean, honestly, I felt like falling over.
Yeah, I would agree.
Too much.
It's actually too much. I agree. So it's those guys, and then Pimax are the other ones that do that super wide.
Yes, Pimax is making a version of their headset that can run off of that mini Steam Deck. Steam Deck, yeah. So that was kind of waiting to happen, and that certainly makes that headset very portable.
Yeah, but
although it's a fully occluded headset, so
can be a little disconcerting, actually.
Yeah. So biggest disappointments.
Oh, okay. I'm curious. Yeah.
Shift all. Panasonic Shift all.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking about the straps. Those are great, but this is the cool steampunk looking headset.
The round cool glasses. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? They're $2,000. They are, I don't know. It felt to me like not better. Let me put it this way. It uses Steam, but it doesn't appear to be better than Quest in terms of its resolution and quality. It allows too many light leaks. It's uncomfortable to wear. Why? I mean, I guess it's cool, and it's sort of, Sony does that a lot, where they show you something that's really cool and they never actually really make it.
Again, this is one of those things where, why are you trying to shove it into this form factor? It doesn't make sense yet, and you're just going to suffer the slings and arrows of the fact that it's uncomfortable and it doesn't achieve the objective, right? So yeah.
But finally got a demo of Lynx. This is the French company.
Okay, so I didn't see that, so I'm curious if
again, why? It's pass through, but as you said, pass through doesn't have that much content right now, and it's unclear if it will, and whether it's something people really would want to do outside of enterprise or outside of wow.
But where I did see, and for all of my critique of Sony and the Wire, Sony's booth at CES had 7 demo bays that were booked up solid. And
I couldn't get in. Did you get in?
They were. I mean, we'll get one in the next couple of weeks. So but they were doing 45-minute sessions of the PlayStation VR, Gen 2, with full on AAA level title stuff, and people were just wowed by it.
And they were using their high resolution monitors,
so
that you could. And I mean, it was stunning. The image was stunning. Unfortunately, they weren't running the demo of the thing they did with Unreal and the Matrix movies, because that demo, which we saw on video, would be pretty incredible in a headset.
And I'm sure we'll get a chance to look at it. But they were demonstrating that they're the leader in gaming, and they're going to push this, and it is a consumer offering, right? And so I think they're excited about it. I think consumers are excited about it. I was impressed by what I saw. Yeah.
So, there's a company called DivViz, and they have a wearable, like they have all those sensors and LiDAR and whatnot on those Waymo cars that are mapping all the cities. So this is a wearable harness that has the sensor on the top of your head. And I ran into somebody who was...
We saw, I think one of the guys at our talk, we saw a guy wearing.
Yeah, that's his name is what, Mike. Mike, if you're listening, I'm sorry, I'm not remembering your last name. But Mike has been, does it as a contractor, because it's like $100,000 thing, but he gets contracts to like scan places. And so he showed me, he walked around Fenway Park, just on the outside, big stroll around the stadium, and he captured the whole thing in an hour. So that was a moment when I said, wow, we really are going to make a digital twin of the physical world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, it's going to exist. Now, I don't know if it's going to exist as one unified thing.
That's for sure will not. Yeah. And a lot of technology is moving into being able to use your mobile phone to do sort of lower fidelity stuff of that. So that now allows an ecosystem to start build up around this stuff. So it's happening.
Yeah. But it takes so much of the friction out of making a twin. Still a bit experimental, apparently, on the developer side. It's an unwieldy amount of data to crunch into a computer, but they'll solve that. They'll solve that. That sort of thing. I'm confident some kind of AI is going to be able to pick through it and take what's needed out of that dense point cloud. So many other things to talk about, Ted. We've gone for, I don't know, about 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's a long show this time. Yeah.
I couldn't even get to Area 15, which I'm really embarrassed.
Oh, yeah, I know. Well, we said I connected you with the guys.
I mean, listen, I would have been willing to go over
another time.
Today,
there'll be other times. Yeah. We'll get you there.
We need to do a separate Vegas trip.
Yes, we do. It's great. We'll have you go, and we'll do a whole. We should do a whole This Week in XR from Area 15. That's a really good idea.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. And try and get the Meow Wolf people and some of the
absolutely go for us.
Yeah. So by the way, Matt, Meow Wolf advertising the heck.
Yeah, they're doing really good.
Yeah,
I'm friends with those guys. They're making a profit. They're putting huge amounts of people through it all the time, and people really enjoy it.
No, it's a big. They're building it up into a circus like kind of thing where it's going to be all over Vegas and maybe spread much farther than that.
They got
Santa Fe and Denver. Is that right?
Santa Fe is still my favorite Meow Wolf. The original is fantastic.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, that's what we've got from CES. There'll be more in my column, which I need to get working on. But CES, thank you for the Consumer Electronic Association, to our friends who came to our dinner, to our clients who listened to our opinions. Have a great new year, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
I'm on my way back to LA right now.
That's right. Have a safe drive in your Tesla. Don't fall asleep.